Hello, my name is Love Kher, and I'm sitting here with Mr. KJ Sharma. And today we have chosen to talk about knowledge versus devotion. Very important topic because there is confusion about whether knowledge is more important or devotion is more important. So I thought it is best to start with the basic fundamental questions. So, Mr. Sharma, if you can explain in as simple way as you can, what is knowledge? And when you define knowledge, make a distinction between the material and the spiritual. And after that, I will ask you about the devotion. But let's start with the basics of the knowledge.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kate. Uh, First of all, as regards knowledge, we we understand that knowledge is also of two types. One is the physical knowledge, the material knowledge, and the other is spiritual knowledge. Physical knowledge is related with the body, mind, and intellect, which are the objects. And the spiritual knowledge is about the self, that what we are, that is the Atman. That is what is the spiritual knowledge. So physics and metaphysics. So basically, all the material knowledge are nothing but information. When the body drops, all that knowledge will drop with the body. But the knowledge about the self, because the self is eternal, and the knowledge about the eternal entity is also eternal. Since it is eternal, the knowledge of its eternal is also eternal. It never vanishes. So, first of all, we must understand the distinction between the material knowledge and the spiritual knowledge. And in human life, both the knowledges are required because so long the soul is acquiring the body, so long the body is existing with the presence of the soul, material knowledge is very important in order to nurture the body, in order to take care of the body, in order to meet all the requirements of the body, mind, and intellect. Material knowledge is very important.
Give an example of what is material knowledge.
Material knowledge is all information. Material knowledge is knowledge about all the objects, what you see, what you observe, you interact with that is all material knowledge.
So, in other words, a child goes to school, college, post
These are all material knowledge.
These are all material knowledges.
That's what I said. That is why it is nothing but information.
Information. Okay, so that's
The
what you
material knowledge is nothing but information about the objects you see and you interact through your senses. There are 5 senses through which we interact with all the objects.
Right.
So these are nothing but information,
Mhm.
and that is what is the material knowledge, because all the objects are nothing but matter.
Mm.
Even our body is matter. So these are all information or material knowledge.
Right, right.
And the knowledge about the self, what we are ourself, that is Atman, the knowledge about the self is the spiritual knowledge. So as I said that, the material knowledge will drop, will vanish when the body is dropped. But the spiritual knowledge will never, because that spiritual knowledge is about the eternal entity which is the Atman. So the knowledge which is about the Atman will never vanish, will also be eternal.
What do you mean by it will never vanish? So when somebody dies, information goes away, but you are saying that the spiritual knowledge never goes away. So what happens after death to the spiritual knowledge?
Yeah, so let us understand. See, the body is material. which is made of 5 elements, as we say. But in the body, the jiva is present. The combination of mind, intellect, and ahankar, the ego, this combination is the jiva. That is what is the soul. So, the knowledge of the Atman with the jiva will be will go along with the soul when it acquires the next embodiment. That will not die.
I see. So that
That will continue.
that will travel with the jiva.
Yes. So all these sanskaras and that knowledge, spiritual knowledge, will be carried on
into the next life.
to the next life.
Okay.
But a lot of information about the material world will vanish when the body drops, when the body dies. Death of the body is what? When the jiva leaves the body dies. Jiva never dies. It travels from one body to the other. It will be acquiring the embodiment till the time it gets rid of from all the desires and it attains the moksha or the total salvation. So till that time, it will be acquiring the embodiment. So, um, and the other question is,
How would someone acquire the spiritual knowledge? I know one can go to ashram or read books, but can you just summarize how to acquire this? For the material knowledge, you go to college, right?
yeah.
How do you get the
No,
spiritual
similarly, there are so many good scriptures are there. The saints and sages have already defined enough material, enough sources are there for understanding the spiritual knowledge. But knowing spiritual knowledge is one thing, but realizing the spiritual knowledge is another thing. Simply by reading the scriptures, the books, you can know about it. But simply knowing doesn't matter much.
You have to internalize.
You have to internalize.
And how do you do that?
Yes. So, in order to do that, you see, all the material knowledge or information can be interacted through the 5 senses. And that's how you experience that, you know that. But as far as the spiritual knowledge is there, simply by reading and knowing about it, you cannot interact with that. In order to interact with that, or in order to understand that or realize that, one has to cut off from the interaction through all our senses from all the objects all around. Then only slowly we start concentrating on the self which is present within. So the continuous concentration on the self, slowly cutting off all the interactions with the objects in outside of the body. Once that process continues constantly, then slowly the mind will start slowing down and all the thoughts arising about the objects will start subsiding, and a stage will come when you will transcend the mind. Once you transcend the mind, then what is left is nothing but the self itself.
Yeah.
That is the stage when you realize that I'm not what the objects are. I am the self. I am the subject.
So one of the things that I believe helps us to achieve that assimilation of the spiritual knowledge is the path that the Guru shows to us.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that?
Yes.
Otherwise, we can be doing on our own and struggling and not achieve or assimilate the knowledge.
Yes. You see, Though it is a process by which we can transcend the mind, go within, and concentrating within the self, we realize the self. But in order to attain to that level, the self effort is important. For the self effort, first of all, the knowledge about it is essential. Once the knowledge about it is acquired, then the process of attaining that starts. So the self effort to attain that level of realizing the self starts or can be continued throughout the life. But what happens that if you if one gets the right guru, first of all we should understand what guru is. What is the meaning of guru? Guru is made of two Sanskrit words, gu plus ru. Gu means ignorance, andhakar, darkness. Darkness represents the ignorance, and ru means prakash, the knowledge. So guru is he who can remove the ignorance, remove the darkness, and brings us to the light.
Right.
So that is the role of the guru. The real guru, when we get, he can do that. So the real knowledge, removing the ignorance, the guru will provide. But at the same time, when we start doing the process of self realization, acquiring the knowledge from the guru, our self efforts are going on, which get added by the grace of the guru also, because guru has already attained that level. So after attaining that level, and if that kind of a guru gives you that knowledge, brings you from ignorance to the knowledge, from darkness to light, that guru will also gracefully bless you, will help you through his graceful effort to uplift you
Yeah.
and provide you. So then what happens? Your effort becomes double, your own effort and effort of your guru. So that is why a devotion required, so that if you get devoted to the guru, guru is more and more graceful to you, and his grace, your effort combined together will make you much sooner to attain that level of self-realization.
So you use the word devotion, and actually, I want to go there. But before we talk about what devotion is, can you make clear distinction between the rituals that are typically performed in the temple or home, and many homes, and then what exactly devotion means?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to just talk. I want you to talk about the rituals, devotion, and then my last thing that before I forget, I want to ask is it better to have knowledge or devotion? Which is more important, or both are important? I know I'm asking too many questions. First, define rituals and a good devotion, and then the last part.
See, devotion is another word of dedication. All the rituals what a human being perform are all because of, if you're dedicated to achieve something or to acquire something, you will perform certain rituals. Even to have a degree, qualify as a high school graduate or a postgraduate or a doctorate, you have to put in efforts. Those are all rituals. So you dedicate yourself. Dedication means what? You are devoting yourself, your time, your money, your strength, your efforts, you're doing. You're dedicating or devoting that to attain s- s- certain 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 level in life. But there is little difference between dedication and devotion.
Hmm.
Though these are very close to each other, in order to achieve material achievements in life, you can dedicate your time, money, effort, and all that. That is dedication. You are dedicated to attain something materially. But when you sentimentally, spiritually, if you want to attain something, then that becomes devotion.
Hmm.
When we understand that God is the supreme power and He is the one who is the cause of the entire existence of the entire manifestation in the universe. So, every individual, every human being think of God and try to devote performing certain rituals, performing certain yajnas, or even doing meditation, etc., in order to achieve that level of understanding about God and come to that level. So, that kind of dedication becomes devotion. So, devotion could be towards God, devotion could be towards your Guru, because Guru is the medium through whom we rightly understand about God and or get the spiritual knowledge. So then that becomes the devotion. Mm. So this is little difference between dedication and devotion, but devotion is also kind of dedication. I'm totally dedicated to my spiritual life. Means I have dedicated all my efforts, my thoughts, my everything. I have dedicated to my spiritual life. Somebody would say, I am totally dedicated to my profession, my material life.
So, so now, given that distinction you have made very clear, um, if I have to ask, out of the two, gaining knowledge is more important or having the devotion more important?
See, first of all, the knowledge is important.
Is a prerequisite.
It is a prerequisite. Because if the knowledge is not there, what devotion are you going to do? Maybe then you will be devoted to some donkey. Who knows what? Lot of people are there, who are going on the wrong path and they think that is the right path. So the knowledge is first of all that is a prerequisite. That most important. So the right knowledge has to be there. When the right knowledge is there, then only the sentiment will start devotion. Then you will get devoted when you will understand that, well, that is supreme. So dedication towards the supreme. And what is supreme? Supreme is nothing but the Brahman, the Atma, or the Guru through whom we attain that level of understanding or the knowledge. Then only the beginning of devotion starts. Then we get devoted.
And Sharmaji, there are many examples in our history and scriptures about some folks who devoted their entire life to Ishvara, Bhagwan, right? Mirabai comes to my mind, who completely merged herself into Lord Krishna. Do you think she had gained the knowledge through the scriptures, or was it something that she was born with? She knew what the knowledge is, and that's why she spent all her life uh, devoted towards Lord Krishna.
Yes. Yes. First of all, knowledge has to be there. Without knowledge, one will be in ignorance. So, in ignorance or in the dark, you cannot see the objects. When there is a light, then only you can see something, right? So similarly, without knowledge, you won't know what God is or what you are yourself. So that's why the knowledge is important, and that is the prerequisite in any case, in all cases. Then comes now, as you asked about Mirabai as an example. So for that, we have to understand, the result of our karma. So once we acquire the spiritual knowledge, and suppose, no, first of all, once we acquire the spiritual knowledge, then we start understanding about the self and the Brahman, the God. God is what? Collective consciousness, the Atma, is nothing but God. God is not one human-like body is God. God can incarnate himself in any form. That consciousness can acquire any embodiment, can be present in any form. Present in you, present in me, present in everybody. Every living being is pervaded by that Atman, the consciousness. And that is what is God, that is what is Brahman. So, uh, so your question was,
Did she acquire
oh, yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
in that life?
So in case of Mirabai, you said this, you asked you put me the example. In case of Mirabai, what happens that, in this life, when we have started having that knowledge and we go to that level of getting devoted, actually, when the spiritual knowledge, when it matures, then it gets converted into bhakti, that is called bhakti, devotion. So what happens that some people you will find that from the beginning itself they become so much spiritually inclined and get so much of devotion. That means that there are three kinds of karma phala: sanchit, prarabdha, and vartaman. So what happens that suppose in this life we had been doing so much of uh, devoted activities towards the bhakti phase has started, and then the time comes that the body is dropped. Then the soul, the jivatma, leaves the body and acquires another embodiment in the next life. So, from the very early age, from the stage they had left in this life, they will start from that level in that life. So, for them, it is not necessary that they have to go back to acquire the knowledge. The knowledge they have already carried. I have already also spoken that the spiritual knowledge never dies.
Right.
It is always carried on, it goes with the soul. So that awareness will go with the soul when the soul acquires next embodiment. So in case of Mirabai, she had already brought her prarabdha, but drawing from the Sanchit Karmaphala. So in this slide, from the early age only, she became devoted, and she was already matured enough in her spiritual knowledge to be at the level of bhakti. So bhakti is the ultimate, that is the devotion. The ultimate stage of spiritual knowledge is nothing but bhakti.
Right.
When that stage reaches the climax, then that soul merges back into the whole, into the supreme consciousness. Then at that stage, then again they do not require to acquire the body map, because there is no more desire left. That soul becomes one with the Atman, one with the supreme consciousness.
All right. So thank you so much, Sharma ji. Let me take a minute to summarize a little bit about what we discussed today. So we talked about knowledge. Knowledge has two types: material knowledge that we gain when we go to school, college, or interact with this physical world. That is the material knowledge. But that is not enough for our life's evolution or to achieve some kind of a peace and happiness. We need to have spiritual knowledge. And spiritual knowledge can be achieved by reading different scriptures. And the best way to gain or go towards that path is if you can find a guru who can help us get rid of the ignorance that we all are born with the knowledge, and therefore that helps expedite. Although there are some people who never had any guru, but they are very evolved souls.
Yeah, because from their past life, as they Prarabdha,
Right.
they had already achieved certain level. And at that level, they left that body, and in this embodiment,
Yeah.
they start their journey from there.
Correct. And then we moved on to a slightly connected but different topic, which is the devotion and before devotion. What is the difference between rituals and dedication and devotion? And Sharmaji explained very nicely about these three. And the bottom line question I had was, is knowledge more important or devotion more important? And you explained very well that the question itself is not the right question. These are my words, not yours.
Every question is right.
Right. But my point is that unless we have the knowledge, because knowledge is the prerequisite, you cannot achieve go to the devotion stage, and therefore you cannot achieve the true moksha. So you have to follow that journey. So with that, thank you so much, Sharmaji. Thank you, Nick. And it was a wonderful session. Until next time,
Thank you.
thank you.